true deep thinking starts right where comfort ends. Picture this. You're in a crowded room, voices mingling, laughter echoing, but beneath all the noise, there's little substance. Most conversations are just recycled memes, repeated opinions, and empty phrases pretending to be meaningful. And then a question hits you. Why do we feel like we're thinking less, feeling less, understanding less? We live in an age flooded with information, an era where all the knowledge humanity has ever gathered is just seconds away. Yet somehow, we're growing more shallow, more distracted, and easier to manipulate. How is it that, despite all this knowledge, ignorance is on the rise? Maybe you've noticed it too. Talks feel hollow. Debates turn into shouting matches filled with labels and sarcasm. Young people know more about internet celebrities than their own family roots. The noise gets louder, but the meaning slips away. What's worse, many accept this as normal. So here's the tough question. Why is society growing duller? Who profits from this decline in wisdom? And what can you and I do to avoid being swept away by this wave of collective mediocrity? Stick around, because what follows will uncover the deep roots of this crisis and offer keys to resist it. Fair warning, it might make you uncomfortable, forcing you to confront how you consume information, how you think, and how you live. Society may be drowning in shallow distractions, but there's still a narrow, uncomfortable, solitary path, walked only by those brave enough to think for themselves. It's the only way to regain the clarity we've lost. So join me, because what comes next could transform how you see culture, politics, education, technology, and most importantly, your own mind. Never before in history has so much knowledge been at our fingertips. We literally carry in our pockets a library far greater than the ancient Alexandria, a vast web connecting philosophers, scientists, and thinkers from every era. And yet, paradoxically, why do we feel like we know less and less? Despite being flooded with information, wisdom is slipping away. We consume mountains of data but struggle to make sense of it, like drinking seawater. The more you take in, the thirstier you become. Think about how often you pick up your phone, just for a moment, and suddenly lose hours scrolling through endless videos, headlines, and posts that fade from memory the next day. How many times do we skim headlines without verifying facts or reflecting on context? This isn't accidental. It's by design. Platforms that dominate our attention aren't built to enlighten us. They're designed to keep us hooked. Their goal isn't truth, but attention. In this game, what wins is the simplest, fastest, most emotional content. Complexity is discarded, nuance erased, and depth slowly dies. Studies show our average attention span is shorter than a decade ago, not because we're less intelligent, but because constant bombardment rewires our brains to crave instant gratification. We jump from 15-second videos to memes, tweets, and reactions without pausing to think. Deep thinking has become a luxury few can afford. The irony? The more we superficially know, the less we truly understand. We fill our minds, but empty our consciousness. This has dire consequences. A society unable to distinguish truth from falsehood, or the important from the trivial, becomes fragile, vulnerable, and manipulable. We're not facing an information crisis, but a crisis of interpretation. We don't lack knowledge, we lack the wisdom to use it. If we don't change course, this data overload will become our greatest poverty. Why do we choose the shallow over the deep? The answer lies not just in media, but within us. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman explained that we have two modes of thinking: a fast, intuitive, automatic system designed for survival, and a slow, reflective, effortful system. Our brains prefer to save energy, so we favor quick, comfortable answers. Modern culture exploits this, appealing to our impulsive side with social media, politics, and advertising that reward emotion over reason. What's easier? Reading a challenging essay or watching a bite-sized video that confirms your beliefs? Most choose the latter. Gradually, society grows accustomed to not thinking deeply. This isn't accidental, it's business. Viral wins over truth. Emotion beats reflection. Emotions like laughter, outrage, and fear act as mental shortcuts, making us feel alive but easily manipulated. Research from MIT shows fake news spreads faster than facts because it triggers stronger emotions. Philosopher Nietzsche foresaw this with chilling clarity. The last man, content with comfort, avoiding effort, and unwilling to think or suffer, is already here. Intellectual laziness has become the norm. We no longer blink at people confidently debating topics they don't understand or at absurd ideas going viral while valuable insights disappear. Superficiality has become normalized, and that's more than ignorance, it's surrender. Stupidity isn't a lack of knowledge, but a refusal to think. Even more troubling, this decline is strategic. The more we think automatically, the easier it is to control us. A population driven by quick emotions is far easier to manipulate than one that reflects deeply. The psychological becomes political. Emotion becomes a tool of power. So, what if we chose to resist? What if we embraced slow, difficult thinking, even if it's uncomfortable or unpopular? We might discover our minds are capable of far more than we realize. But difficult ideas rarely go viral, rarely get clicks. That's the trap. What strengthens society is rarely what's consumed most. To understand collective ignorance, we must look beyond screens to the human mind, to our psychological vulnerabilities, and how the modern world exploits them. This isn't news to great thinkers. Many predicted it centuries ago. A society that chooses comfort over truth is doomed to decay. Nietzsche's last man wasn't metaphorical. It was prophecy, a mediocre being who avoids risk and dreams, who values security over greatness, and who survives without questioning. Plato warned us 2,000 years ago in his allegory of the cave, chained beings mistaking shadows for reality. Today, those shadows are screens. We're hypnotized by digital flickers, mistaking illusion for truth. And when someone dares to break free and seek the light, they're ridiculed and canceled, because truth, like light, hurts eyes long accustomed to darkness. Neil Postman predicted this in Amusing Ourselves to Death. The danger isn't censorship but entertainment, society choosing laughter over thought, silence over speech. Today we don't lose freedom by force, we give it away for distraction. Carl Jung said maturity begins by facing one's shadow, looking at the uncomfortable truths we avoid. Yet modern culture runs from pain, conflict, and complexity, treating them like threats instead of paths to wisdom. History repeats this pattern. Civilizations don't fall from invasions alone, but rot from within. Rome wasn't destroyed by barbarians, but by decadence, by luxury and spectacle, bread and circuses. A distracted, entertained, fed people doesn't rebel, doesn't think, doesn't create. And tell me, what do we have today? A digital bread and circuses, memes, series, controversies, short videos, daily outrages that keep us busy while the important things crumble without us noticing. No one needs to chain us because we choose our own chains, the most comfortable ones, those of infinite entertainment. Philosophy then becomes a mirror. It shows us that none of this is new. It's the same eternal struggle between depth and superficiality, between effort and laziness, between truth and illusion. Only now that battle is fought on a global scale, amplified by algorithms, accelerated by immediacy. And here arises the essential question. Do we want to be guardians of wisdom or prisoners of the shadows? Philosophy doesn't give easy answers, but it does leave a clear warning. The fate of a society depends on the quality of its thinking. If we let critical thinking die, we also let our freedom die. If we want to understand why the world is becoming increasingly stupid, it's not enough to look at psychology or technology. We have to observe how culture, education, and power have collaborated, consciously or unconsciously, in this great collective anesthesia. Let's start with education. For centuries, educating meant shaping the mind, teaching to think, cultivating curiosity, awakening reason. Today, in much of the world, educating has become a mechanical process. Memorize, pass, repeat. Schools and universities trapped in the logic of productivity no longer prepare us to understand the world, but to perform within it. They don't teach thinking, but obedience. And the result is clear. Entire generations trained to answer questions, but incapable of asking them. John Dewey warned about it more than a century ago. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. But what we have now is a machine that kills creativity and critical thinking in the name of efficiency. Added to that is the culture of immediacy. Instead of sages, we have influencers. Instead of teachers, celebrities. Instead of ideas, trends. Knowledge is no longer measured by depth, but by followers. In this new world, the popular is confused with the true, and the deep disappears because thinking slowly doesn't get clicks. But there's something even more unsettling. Power. Because this superficial system doesn't just benefit networks or tech companies, it also benefits those who govern. A distracted, divided, and misinformed population is the raw material of power. The ancient Romans knew it well. Juvenal summed it up in 2 words: panem et circenses, bread and circuses. Keep the people fed and entertained, and they'll never question anything. Today, we live the digital version of that principle. Unlimited consumption, manufactured controversies, constant spectacles, chained scandals that keep us busy while the essential goes unnoticed. Michel Foucault explained that modern power no longer needs to impose itself with violence. It works by shaping what you think, what you desire, what you consider normal, and one of the most effective ways to do it is by controlling your attention. Every notification, every trend, every wave of outrage serves to capture your mind, to direct your energy toward the trivial. In that sense, collective stupidity isn't just a cultural accident, it's a political and economic strategy. The less people think, the more docile they become. The more they entertain themselves with the banal, the less energy they have to question the unjust. And the more divided a society is into opposing sides, the less strength it has to resist. Culture, education, and power, 3 pieces that, without needing a conspiracy, work in harmony to keep us asleep. And the most disturbing thing of all is that many don't notice it. They believe distraction is freedom, when in reality, it's the most sophisticated form of slavery. So far, we've seen the causes: human psychology, superficial culture, weakened education system, and the power that benefits from it. But now we must look at the consequences, and they're much deeper than you imagine. The first consequence is political. A society incapable of critical thinking becomes fertile ground for manipulation. Discourses are reduced to empty slogans, phrases that excite but don't explain. Instead of debates, we have spectacles. Instead of reflection, tribalism. Politics no longer seeks to convince, only to divide. Leaders become celebrities, and voters become followers. It's about shouting louder, not reasoning better. And when reason fades, democracy starts to die slowly. The second consequence is cultural. Superficiality is no longer seen as a flaw, but as a form of success. Influencers who base their fame on scandal or exaggeration become role models for millions. Exposure is confused with value, fame with wisdom. Depth stops being attractive because it requires effort, while banality goes viral because it entertains. Slow thinking bores. Reflection doesn't sell. Authenticity is disguised as spectacle, and so little by little, culture stops nourishing the soul and becomes a circus that feeds the ego. The third consequence is social. A community that doesn't know how to think together loses its ability to build a future. When each individual lives locked in their own bubble of distraction, the sense of the collective dissolves. We no longer collaborate. We compete for attention. We no longer share ideas. We exchange cliches. We become small islands obsessed with validation, incapable of cooperating. A fragmented society can't resist power or defend truth. And the fourth consequence, the most intimate, is personal. Because this collective stupidity doesn't just degrade institutions or culture, it also corrupts your inner life. When you accept the noise without questioning it, you surrender your freedom, you stop being the owner of your mind, and become a product of algorithms, propaganda, trends. You lose something invisible but essential: sovereignty over your own thought. This is the silent cost. Not only does the world become poorer, so do you. A life without reflection, without depth, without conscious attention, is a life that slips into mediocrity without realizing it. And the most unsettling thing is that many already accept it as inevitable. But it's not. The decline isn't a destiny, it's a choice. A choice we make every day in every click, in every conversation, in every thought we decide to have or avoid. That's why the next question is inevitable. Are we doomed to sink into this spiral of collective stupidity, or is there still a way out? The answer is yes. There is a way to resist, but it's not a comfortable, quick, or popular path. It's a demanding path, one of courage, discipline, consciousness, a path reserved for those who haven't yet given up on thinking. The first step is to reclaim attention. Our mind is the most valuable resource we have, and yet we hand it over to screens every day almost without realizing it. Every time you consciously choose what to consume, instead of letting the algorithm drag you along, you're resisting. Freedom begins with the gaze. The second step is to cultivate slow reflection in a world that idolizes speed. Thinking slowly has become a revolutionary act. Reading a full book instead of a summary. Having a deep conversation instead of a chain of quick messages. Writing your ideas instead of just reacting to others. These small acts rebuild the thinking muscle that digital culture has atrophied. The third step is to embrace complexity. Not everything can be reduced to black or white, us or them, a phrase or a headline. Life is ambiguous, contradictory, uncomfortable. But precisely there, in the uncomfortable, true wisdom is born. Rejecting easy answers is rejecting manipulation. The fourth step is to create conscious community, because no one becomes wise in isolation. Since Socrates, philosophy has been dialogue, a shared search for truth. So surround yourself with people who challenge you to think, not just confirm what you already believe. Talk with those who don't think like you. Listen without prejudice, ask without fear, share without masks. An awake society can only be born from awake individuals who dialogue with each other. The fifth step is to reclaim memory. We can't allow the past to dissolve in the avalanche of useless novelties. History isn't an academic luxury, it's a living warning. Whoever forgets yesterday's mistakes is doomed to repeat them tomorrow. Return to the classic thinkers, the great philosophers, the writers who unsettled their time. It's not nostalgia, it's resistance. They are the lighthouses that can help us see through this fog of distraction. And the sixth step, perhaps the most forgotten of all, is to reclaim silence. We live drowned in noise, but we rarely listen to the essential, our own inner voice. Silence isn't emptiness, it's space. It's the place where the mind breathes, where the soul organizes itself, where ideas mature. Kierkegaard warned about it centuries ago. Constant bustle distances us from ourselves. Practicing silence is an act of spiritual sovereignty. It's reconnecting with what we are when all the screens are turned off. Each of these steps may seem small, almost insignificant, but together they represent the only way back to lucidity. History proves it. Great changes don't begin with multitudes, but with conscious minorities. It doesn't take the whole world waking up at once. It's enough for a few to refuse to stay asleep. Wisdom isn't the privilege of a few geniuses. It's a choice available to anyone who decides to resist the inertia of mediocrity. And in a world that rewards the superficial, thinking deeply is an act of freedom. It's also inevitably a political act, because every time you choose to think for yourself, you're disobeying the system that wants you not to. We've walked an uncomfortable but necessary path. We've seen how society sinks amid distractions, how the manipulation of attention destroys reflection, how the powerful prefer an entertained people over a wise one. But there's a deeper truth. The real danger isn't that society becomes more stupid, but that you accept it as inevitable. Because the moment you believe there's nothing to do, in that instant you stop being part of the resistance and become part of the problem. Collective stupidity feeds on individual silence. That's why I want to leave you with something very clear. You have much more power than you imagine, not to change the entire world at once, but to transform your world, your mind, your surroundings. And when one person does it, it inspires others to do the same. That's how silent revolutions begin, not with shouts, but with consciousness, not in the streets, but in the mind. the ones that don't make headlines, but change history from below. True wisdom has never been popular. Socrates was condemned for unsettling his city. Galileo was silenced for challenging dogmas. Martin Luther King was persecuted for dreaming of a different world. In every era, those who dared to think differently were treated as mad or dangerous, but they were the ones who lit the torch that later illuminated millions. Today it's up to you to decide. Will you follow the flow of distraction, of the easy, of the comfortable? Or will you dare to be different, to cultivate your mind, to think deeply in a world that has almost forgotten what thinking means? Ask yourself, are you nourishing your mind or lulling it to sleep? Are you using your time to grow or giving it away to the irrelevant? Are you the owner of your attention or handing it over for free to those who profit from your passivity? The choice is yours, and though it seems small, it's not. Because every time you choose reflection over distraction, silence over noise, truth over comfort, you're strengthening something much bigger than yourself: collective intelligence. Don't wait for the world to change first so you can change later. Transformation always starts in the invisible, the internal, the everyday. It starts with you, here and now. If this message resonated with you, don't let it die. Share it, discuss it, reflect on it, integrate it into your daily life. The next time you feel the temptation to get lost in banality, remember that in that instant, you're deciding the kind of world you want to live in. The world desperately needs less noise and more clarity, fewer followers and more thinkers, less empty entertainment and a deeper search for truth. If you've made it this far, you've already shown what many cannot: discipline, depth, and genuine attention. You've listened, reflected, and gone beyond the surface, and in today's world, that is an act of resistance. Don't waste it. Before we finish, I want to invite you to something simple yet powerful. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to wake up. This isn't just about building a community. It's about spreading a message that can ignite minds, awaken consciences, and transform lives. Remember, collective ignorance only wins when individual wisdom surrenders. As long as even one person dares to think clearly, hope remains for the future. Choose wisely. Your mind is your greatest act of freedom. Don't hand it over. Don't lull it to sleep. Don't sell it cheap. In a world drowning in noise, clarity is a heroic act. Consciousness is rebellion. Deep thinking is the last stronghold of human freedom. Though society pushes distraction, culture rewards complacency, and the system wants you docile. Never forget, you weren't born to stay asleep. You were born to see, to understand, to awaken. The true revolution isn't fought with weapons but with ideas. It's not measured in votes but in clarity. It's not won by followers but by truth. So the next time you scroll through social media, see a trending story, or encounter a manipulative message, pause and ask yourself, is this expanding my consciousness or shrinking it? That single question can mean the difference between freedom and control. Never forget, the system doesn't need to destroy you, it only needs to distract you. And every day, every hour, you have the choice not to let it. Think, even if it's hard. Doubt, even if it's uncomfortable. Reflect, even if you stand alone, because everything stupidity fears is a mind that refuses to be controlled.